I call this meeting of the Only City Council, July 27th, 2026 to order. Please rise and say the Pledge of Allegiance and remain standing for our opening prayer.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Lord, we come to you tonight and ask for your guidance upon this meeting, that we do those things that are right and good for all the citizens of Olney. We ask for your protection upon our workers and all of our citizens. And we say a special prayer tonight for Council Member Julie Eichhorst, that she will heal and be better in the days to come. In
Yes,
Christ's name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Hallelujah.
Call the roll, please.
Councilman Miller,
Present.
Councilman Fehrenbacher,
Here.
Councilwoman Eichhorst, Councilman Iyer,
Present.
Mayor Lambert.
Here. First item on the agenda is public comments and presentations. Are there any public comments? Any public comments? Seeing none, we'll move on to presentation of the consent agenda, which includes to approve minutes of the council meeting on July 13th, 2026, approve and authorize payments of accounts payable July 28th, 2026, and a raffle license from the Olney Memorial VFW Post 4226. Any of these items need to be removed from the consent agenda? I would accept a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion made and second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, we'll proceed to vote. All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion passes. Next item on the agenda under presentation of ordinances and resolutions, discussion and possible action on lake structure variance at 5236 North Lakewood Road. And please state your name for the record, please.
Sure. My name is Kurt Hitty. Thank you, council members, in advance for your time tonight. I know you have a busy agenda, and I very much appreciate you making time for this matter today. We submitted a lot of materials with the variance application. I'm happy to summarize those if that would be helpful. If you've all gone through them and that's not necessary, we can skip to questions.
Is there any questions or comments? Questions?
Do I understand correctly that the applicants rebuilt the dock before asking for the permit?
That is correct. So if I may, the prior dock had been there 15, 20 years. We were not aware that replacing the dock required a permit until Courtney contacted us and notified us of that. The footprint of the dock is mostly the same, although we did add an L on one end.
Generally, whenever we are discussing variance, it's usually a topic of we're over a foot, we're just a little too close to the line. And from what I was reading is that we were significantly over, almost double, if I do the math correctly here. It's significantly beyond what I guess most people would say variance. And I understand the unfortunate situations you already built the dock. This is just me, this is just my opinion, that if we were to do the variance, it would be a significant adjustment in effect beyond what the ordinance would state, is what I'm saying. And we'd have quite a bit of outrage by those who have not gone past the ordinance.
It's my understanding that if you had not have built the dock the way it would have, you would not have had enough clearance underneath. It was
No.
too shallow.
No, yeah, there's a depth chart in there. There's, anyone familiar with that point, the water around that point is significantly shallow. As you can tell, even where our dock is now, the back end of it is only at about 8 feet. That has required a number of residents on our street, including Stephen Jan Runyon, the Klinglers, the Bookouts, all needed variances for their docks as we've come to understand it. So there's a significant water depth issue there, which is why the original dock was out where it was, and which is why this dock was rebuilt there.
previous dock was of similar length out in the water?
As I said in there, the new dock is, we think 5 or so feet beyond where the old one was. The dock installer suggested that we do that, just given the water depth, just to make sure we had enough clearance. We did have some issues with our old lift, at times of extreme drought, not every year, of course, but, there were some years where we had really, really low water and had trouble getting one of the boats off the lift. So that's why it's out as far as it is.
Did, I know this may be before your time that you owned it, but when that dock was built, does anyone know, did they get a variance for that at that time?
So this is on my folks' property. I'm appearing on their behalf. They're elderly and oversaw the installation of that dock. I asked my dad that. He didn't recall. He's 88 years old, and he did look for paperwork and was not able to find any. I don't know if there's paperwork in the City of Alny records. I don't know how far back this whole process went either, whether it was required 15, 20 years ago or not, to be honest.
20 years ago? So, yes.
I'm sure it would have been requirements 20 years
So
ago.
is that roughly when the previous dock was installed?
Yes.
Within 15 to 20 years?
Yes.
Which, without a variance, it would have been significantly beyond the allowance then, because in 2022, we increased the allowances for the shoreline length and the depth into the lake, so.
Okay.
Significantly. And what you have now, that you have already built, unfortunately, is significantly beyond that additional allowance that we put into place in 2022. And I believe we have already had a situation of a very similar ilk. A dock was built without a permit, and it was required, therefore, to be put back into compliance with the ordinance. Is that correct, Frank?
That has happened.
That is happened before. I mean, we've already been down this path, Mr. Hibby. So,
I understand that. I understand it's a bit of a difficult situation. I guess, well, I don't know what's next. If it's gonna be denied, I guess I would ask if there are parameters within which I could possibly have it reconstructed. I do not believe that we can construct it within the confines of the ordinance and have something usable. The fact that we have 3 boats between my dad and I, we keep them all on this property. And the water depth and the trees that grow out over the water, I mean, it would take a significant
so
redevelopment of the shoreline.
And if, I'm just reading between the lines here, but it's not necessarily the draft of your boats. Your boats certainly do not have an 8-foot draft to the bottom of the keel, or the rudder, or the propeller, or whatever type of boat you have. It's a matter of having a boat lift, which are no longer external, with a sling that lifted the boats out and they were attached to the dock. Now the lifts are submergible tanks that are flooded and they sink under the boat, and the boat comes in to slip, and then air is pumped into the tanks and it lifts the boat out of the water. Is that correct?
That's 2 of the lifts. One of them is a manual lift
Okay,
that we had
so-
before.
It's more a matter of having the lifts not be had enough clearance with the current depth, not a matter of getting your boat into the slip without fouling the propeller or rudder or keel.
I would say yes and no. The front of the slips are only 4.5, 5 feet deep.
Mhm.
So, I mean,
So-
sort of regardless of what kind of lift you had, that's pretty much the limit on
Even with
depth.
4 foot, your boat has a greater than a 4-foot draft.
No, but even with a manual lift,
I haven't been familiar with a boat lift of a sling type since Bora Lake in probably the late 80s, but it had a large nylon web that under the boat. I mean, it required a 1/4-inch clearance under the boat. I mean, the sling, it was like a sling lifted the boat out of the water.
okay, I'm not familiar with that lift. The lifts
Yeah,
that we
maybe-
had were the metal manual vertical
It may
lifts,
be-
which have a carriage underneath them that the boat sits on, similar to a floating boat.
It may be pursuing a different type of lift to be able to comply with the ordinance and still be able to fit underneath your boat and not fouling the bottom. Yeah, but that will be your decision.
I know my boat lift at my house, it requires about 3 feet of water to operate. And I do know that like the people you mentioned previously, those people, most of the people you listed off, they spent significant money on permitted dredging. So their lifts would work rather than just saying, okay, we're just gonna shove it out where it's deep because I don't wanna spend, you just won't call it $40,000 on permitted dredging out of the gate. I just think if we get the toothpaste out of the tube here on giving a variance for a dock that is basically just almost double in size of our rules that you instituted, your council, in 2022 after much thought and argument. All bets are off after that.
So if we deny, what's the process that happens after that?
What's that look like?
Anybody know?
That would be between the property owner and the,
Code enforcement officer.
code enforcement.
So I guess it would be my opinion that anytime that we put these type of regulations into place, it is to protect the rights of other people that might be traveling up and down those coves. This seems to me to be a cove that this does not pose a hazard or a problem to anybody else that might use the back part of that cove. And so I don't know why a variance in this situation might not be warranted, because he's not cutting off a channel, he's not blocking other people's access to their property, and I don't know what the problem necessarily would be. I mean, I understand that we're making a exception, but I think sometimes you have to make exceptions to make things work as best as possible for most people.
That's the concept of a variance, Mayor, is an exception. And had the dock not been built and you were approaching us and wanting to, have a variance and brought forth plans on what you wanted to do and we could have some discussion, my opinion would perhaps be more open to discussion. But the fact that the dock has already been built without any consideration of compliance or a request for a building permit has a significant bearing on tonight's item.
Does the dock builder have to check to see if there is a permit?
Well, I would, this is for you, but when I read that it was just done by a professional dock builder, I'm amazed that he didn't ask you for any kind of your paperwork.
There was no permit for the dock that was rebuilt.
Right.
I'm certain of that.
Yeah, and your contractor didn't ask for any kind of permit? He
No.
didn't ask, well, do you have permission to construct a dock on
He
city
didn't, I
property?
he assumed we would take care of that.
Well, I would say he is partially liable for the situation, in my opinion. But
Well, I view that as, with all due respect, our responsibility, and, so, we certainly did not ask him to do that, and so, it's not a situation where we thought he was giving it and he didn't.
Can I make a suggestion?
Always.
Boats are much larger than they previously were. I don't necessarily have a problem with people having a little bit larger docks than what we spell out in the spec, because that's still not very big by the time you figure your kids are playing off the thing and all that when it's behind your house. My suggestion, but I say that to say that I'm also very driven by the rules. We make a municipal code and I think we should follow or change it. So my suggestion would be, if the majority of the council did want to revisit the dock size, I am not opposed to that, with the understanding that we table your request until we figure out what the majority of the council deems is, okay, this is too big. I'm 100% good within the municipal code where it says, the dock cannot encroach on more than 25% of the waterway behind the home. Do I necessarily have a problem if somebody wants a dock where they have a huge body of water behind their home? Like, what do you got, 1,000 foot? Maybe?
500.
I don't
Yeah,
remember the
it's
number.
almost 200 yards across the cove,
Okay,
and we are 500 and some feet into the cove into a no-wake zone.
Yeah.
We are, I have the stuff written down, give me 1 minute.
So, all that said,
160 yards from the closest neighbor.
all that said, based on what you've heard from all us folks sitting here at this table, I suppose you have a choice where you could get denied and it'd probably be a big mess, or we could table it, we could talk about it, and then maybe you would be in compliance.
I mean, I would very much appreciate that. I mean, I'd like to work with the council to make this work. Again, I have very strong doubts whether we can make it work within the current parameters, as you said.
You'll have to lose us, at
Mo-
least one slip, do some
And,
dredging.
and
pull
most,
it up.
and most pontoon boats, I mean, as you know, it can be, you know, it can be wider if it's within 20 feet, if it doesn't stick out more than 20 feet. I mean, to have a 20-foot slip with a walkway in front of it, your boat can't be more than, I don't know,
Well,
15
your-
feet long. It'd be a fishing boat,
Yeah,
basically.
your boat's sticking,
Yeah,
you
and
got a
so-
20-foot slip, your boat's
Yeah.
sticking out of it, let's call it 6.5 feet.
Yeah, so you know, I would say for modern pontoon boats and things, most slips are 24, 26 feet. You put a walkway in front of it, I mean, you're at 30 feet, and then under the ordinance, you can only be 32 feet. That leaves you a 2-foot walkway from the shore. I mean, I would hazard almost no one's water drops to 3 to 4 or 5 feet, 2 feet off the shore.
Right,
I mean, that's my guess, I mean, ours
Which-
certainly.
that is just a major issue with the tank type airlifts that we see more and more of them on East Fork, and man, you gotta have water. And heck, well, I think it was, what was it, 2012? East Fork was down, it was, I wanna say it was 31 inches below normal pool. So it was,
So nobody's getting their boats out there.
no,
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 we amended the boat dock ordinance right before I got on here.
It's 2022, and it was
22.
after several months of deliberation and several public meetings and much discussion.
Well,
It was quite the ordeal. So Matt, you,
well, no, it was sooner than that.
Hang on.
It was, spring of 2025, there were some,
That was to allow the boat lift on the side of the slip.
Yeah.
correct?
right,
An additional structure.
as not
an additional
That's
part
structure.
of the
but not as a.
dock, right?
Right,
Correct.
not as the,
Yeah, that was the argument. Is a slip a part of the structure or not? Even though it's attached, and I believe it was decided it is not part of the structure, and it can be an addendum if as long as it's on the side of the existing dock. I think that's where that came out. Yeah.
I did note that. I'm sort of curious as to why that was, because as I read the ordinance, you can have 2 10-foot boat lifts.
One on each side of your dock, as long as it doesn't extend the maximum width of your, what is it, 20% of your shoreline. There's, I
So-
apologize, I don't have that
Oh, that's
exactly
okay.
in
So,
front of me.
but if it was I reading it right, then like 32 becomes 52?
I believe that's the case.
If
So
it's
I-
turned
I-
the
As
other
long
way.
as you still have the distance between that end of the boat lift structure and the property line.
Yeah.
Does that sound right, Bart? It was
Sounds
something about that. I mean, you still had to have some allowance on either side before you hit the next property, which for a compact property, it was gonna be a problem, but it sounds like you have adequate shoreline.
Yeah.
But
Which
that-
is-
that
And
wasn't
so
the case.
we're far from the setback lines on both sides by 60, 69
Right.
feet. And I guess I was just curious because I didn't understand why you could have a boat lift sitting next to your dock, but you couldn't put a slip around it and it'd be a formal part of the dock. That seems more visible and quite frankly safer getting in and out of boats, but I obviously wasn't part of
Yeah.
that. I don't know.
Which, yeah, that's exactly what, you mentioned Bookout, that's exactly what they did. Built a dock to the max, and the slip is between the dock and the shore, the lift, to
Okay.
gain compliance. I don't believe they had a variance, I think they were just in compliance. So there, we may have nothing to talk about, if I'm the only person in the room that would be open to at least a discussion
Oh,
on it.
I mean, I think anything we can do. I mean, I think there are certain places in the lake you wouldn't wanna build that dock, because then you would hinder
Correct.
other people's ability to move in and out. But I think this is a clear,
Absolutely.
clear
Absolutely.
case of where it doesn't hinder anybody's ability to traverse the lake.
And again, the old dock was there 15, 20 years, not as big as this one, but similar out in the water. We never had anybody complain, never had an accident, anybody run into it or anything like that. It does, the way the property's configured, it kind of sits back in, there's an indentation, it sits back in a little bit, even though, you know, it measures out from the shore. There's other areas that come out a little bit, so, for what it's worth.
Which,
The challenge,
this is why the variance is being talked about this evening. This is why this was set up this way. Because
Good. there are situations
There are
where
situations
it's certainly
where-
allowable.
and that's up to you all to decide
Right.
on a case-by-case basis. Now, the thing that I do not like about the situation is the dock was built prior to
Permitted,
nobody contacted the city of Almy. That's a problem to me.
yes.
But again,
Mhm.
this is exactly why this variance is put in here, for
It is.
them to come to the council and
Right.
ask for the variance.
And there are situations such as which you probably do have adequate room for a large dock. But the challenge is then when people are out cruising around the lake and look at the dock saying, oh, I see his dock, look at his size of the dock. I wanna build the size of the dock, and all of a sudden, we come to it, it's like, you know, you gotta follow the ordinance, and they'll say, well, that's not fair. They say, well, this man has more room, so we gave him a variance because it didn't seem to be a problem, but now you have maybe a narrower body or a narrow cove, and so we feel that it's not safe, and then they'll say, hey, that's not fair, it's subjective. What about, it was to try to, we tried to establish rules that just everyone could say, this is fair.
I certainly understand that.
And we did increase the size and also the length and the depth into water considerably at that time.
I certainly understand that. I also would agree with the comments that, you know, a variance is meant to fit a particular
It is.
situation. And I think that our property is fairly unique in the
Yes.
water depth and some of the other characteristics of it.
I wish they had not already been built. That's my opinion.
And
Well,
another
I
question
apologize for that, and if there's anything we can do to rectify that, I don't know.
And another problem I have is anybody that's listening to this conversation right now, well, I mean, if it goes a certain way, they're gonna be like, well, we don't even have to get a permit, we just ask for forgiveness later
Right.
and move on with life. So that's
Yeah.
my hangup.
The Binar scenario, and I'm not a fan.
What is our ordinance maximum projection from shore?
32?
32 from shore, 36 along.
36 wide, yeah. Now, if it's if the orientation changes to where you're pulling up parallel to the shoreline, we go, is it 60 wide and 24
I don't know.
out? Something like that, it's a little bit, or 50? I can't remember that width number.
It gets, isn't it
Like-
60? Maybe?
That seems right. That seems right.
Okay,
So,
so
yeah.
you're 57 feet.
If you're within 20 feet of the shoreline, as I read the ordinance, if your dock doesn't extend out more than 20 feet from the shoreline, which would have to be a dock that ran the way you're describing, it can be up to 52 feet.
52, okay.
That's what the ordinance says. That's what my notes say from it.
Questions, comments, motion?
I have one more question. It's 27 feet from shore to the dock. You're 25 feet over regulations. Rather than just the bad solution, if you dredged and we gave you a variance for 5 feet instead of 25.
I mean, it might work, I just don't know, I'd have to talk to a dredging company. Some of the photos may show it, there are trees growing right at that water line. Someone here may know better than I don't know if tree roots would normally grow under the water or not, but there's some pretty big trees there. And I have no idea, so we'd have to dredge probably 3 feet, maybe,
Yeah.
of of ground. I just don't know what's under there, what we might hit. I can certainly look into that as an option. And I appreciate the willingness to consider something else. I just don't know, cause we didn't do that investigation, so.
Would you be interested in investigating that to see if dredging's something you'd be interested in doing?
Sure.
And then you could work with code enforcement, and then you could come back and say, yes, we can dredge, and I don't want a variance for 25 feet, but may I please have a variance for 5 feet if I dredge? And like my house, I cut a bunch of trees along the shoreline because I didn't want them on the boat that I gave an insane amount of money for.
Yeah. Yeah. I totally hear you. Unfortunately, it's my father's property. He's kind of attached to the way it all looks.
I
but-
understand.
Yeah,
do.
I get it. That's not your problem. I'm certainly willing to investigate that.
In light of that, I would make a motion to table this request.
Motion made to table, is there a second?
Second.
Motion made and second, any further discussion? Further discussion, seeing none, we'll proceed to vote. All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay.
Nay.
Motion passes.
Okay. I will, so who should I work with? I'll get with,
I'd say code enforcement and
Dallas.
he
okay,
sells
that's
this.
Dallas and Courtney, or Dallas, okay.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I won't take any more of your time. I don't know who to contact about dredging. If someone has contacts with people that are approved to do that on the lake, I would very much appreciate that. Thank you again for your time.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda, sponsorship request from the Southeastern Illinois Youth Golf Foundation. And I don't see Mr. Capper, but I see Mr. Holger.
Lucky you guys.
Karen Bucker.
Yeah. All right, my name is Austin Zwilling. I got tagged in for Andrew, I guess, here. So, here tonight with fellow Richland Golf Club board members, President Michael Fehrenbacher and board member Chris Ritter. The Richland Golf Club board put together a letter. I'm gonna just kind of read this letter to you guys because we all put this together. And this is just kind of an overview of the club itself and kind of a request tonight. So, good evening, Mayor Lambert and members of City Council. Thank you for allowing us to speak this evening. As I mentioned earlier, my name is Austin Zwilling. I serve as the Vice President of the Richland Golf Club. As I mentioned, Michael and Chris is with me tonight. We're here this evening to respectfully request a $5,000 sponsorship from the City of Olney for our upcoming golf tournament. The Richland Golf Club is one of Olney's greatest community assets. It provides an outstanding recreational opportunity for our residents, while also serving as an important economic driver for our community. Throughout the year, the golf course attracts visitors from across Illinois and neighboring states who support our hotels, restaurants, gas stations, retail stores, and other local businesses. This year's tournament we are hosting is expected to bring more than 100 golfers to Olney, many of whom will be traveling from outside the area. In addition to the tournament itself, we are hosting a Friday evening social event, giving participants another reason to arrive a day earlier than normal and stay overnight, dine at our restaurants, and spend more time supporting businesses throughout Olney. That additional evening means even more economic activity and additional tax revenue for the City of Olney. Richland Golf Club also plays an important role in supporting youth athletics and bringing visitors to Olney throughout the golf season. Richland County High School hosts numerous boys and girls golf matches here each year. Depending on the event, those matches can bring anywhere from 15 to 50 visiting student athletes, coaches, and families to our community. The Girls Invitational typically hosts around 50 golfers, while the Boys Invitational brings approximately 100 golfers for an 18-hole tournament. Every 3 years, the golf course here in Olney hosts a conference tournament, and every 4 to 5 years, it hosts a regional tournament. These events not only generate revenue for the golf club through entry fees, spectator cart rentals, but they also bring additional visitors to support restaurants, businesses, and hotels, while showcasing Olney to schools from across the region. The requested $5,000 sponsorship request we have tonight would primarily help us offset the costs of our Saturday player meal and other overhead expenses associated with hosting the tournament. Your support would help us provide a first-class event that reflects positively on both the Richland Golf Club and the City of Olney. More importantly, we hope this isn't simply a one-time request. We would love for this to be the beginning of a long-term partnership between the City of Olney and the Richland Golf Club. We believe that by working together, we can continue to host events that bring visitors to our community, support local businesses, generate tourism, and showcase one of Ollie's premier recreational facilities. We believe supporting the Richland Golf Club isn't simply an investment in a golf tournament, it's an investment in Ollie. The return comes through visitors staying in our hotels, eating in our restaurants, shopping in our stores, and experiencing everything our community has to offer. We sincerely appreciate your time, consideration, and continued commitment to make Ollie a great place to live, work, and visit. Thank you guys for considering the request, and we would be happy to answer any questions you may have for this sponsorship request. So,
Questions, comments?
So even though it's for, like, the applicant is Southeastern Illinois Youth Golf Foundation, but the donation is basically for the Calcutta,
Richland, yes,
which is played by adults.
yes.
Okay,
So
it's not like a kids event, right?
No.
Okay,
So-
No, the golf course, that's pretty well our nonprofit organization.
okay.
Basically, that's Creighton Avenue for tax deductions, and then basically, the way that is, we give 70 free youth, basically memberships a year. We host a free youth camp, we don't charge the high school money to play. So essentially, it's a way to make sure the youth can play our golf course at no cost at all. That's kinda how that was derived, I think in 2019 is when it began.
Yeah, but the money will be used for the Calcutta Richland Golf Club. It's just, I mean, it honestly could be to Richland Golf Club. Andrew uses Southeastern just as that's how we
Yeah,
get
the application
donations.
was more for nonprofit.
Yeah.
And that's just the avenue that we use, for the tax deductions.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
To individuals.
So whether or not the donation happens, I mean, the Calcutta it's on.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's more just a driver of, hey, how can we, food costs are going up, so our meal used to be $15 a plate, now it's $35 a plate. And then the Friday event's new, so, would love to be able to offset that where, hey, it's not costing us another $1,000 to bring these people here for an extra night.
And over half the participants in the Calcutta are from out of town. We get a lot of people from Chicago playing, so we brought up at the board, we thought this kind of fits into the tourism fund category maybe for the city of Olney. So that's kind of where our idea started at in the board meeting.
Yeah, I think right now we've got 60 people from out of town that would be staying here only for this year's event at the moment.
Someone give me a rough formula for each person or each room that's rented out at a hotel, how much tax revenue do we receive from that?
5%.
Well, the tourism fund is 5%.
5%
Their
hotel
tax is
motel.
5% if they stay in a hotel.
That's just for the state.
How many years have you done this previously?
The Calcutta?
I'd say we're over 35 years.
Yeah, the golf course is a 100-year anniversary next
Yeah,
year.
we've been open 99 years,
Yeah.
next year's our 100th anniversary.
The golf course is not going away.
And this isn't our only tourney that brings people, this is just the primary event. We've got 2 or 3 other weekend tournaments, but that's probably more of your 10 to 25, 30 people come and stay. This is just our primary event that brings out of town people to the area.
How many nights do these folks stay?
So typically Saturday night and some Friday night, but we're hoping we'll draw more people with this social event Friday where we'll have more people staying Friday night and Saturday night. And they usually turn in Sunday afternoon, so they'll leave Sunday
Yeah,
afternoon.
you have some outliers that stay Sunday night, just, it finishes up at 6 or 7 PM and some don't wanna drive home, but yeah, primarily Friday, Saturday night.
Mhm.
There is a bit of conflict in the documentation I have from our city manager. Frank, you had stated that Mr. Capper says this event would not be an event would not be an event sponsorship, but the city would be recognized for contribution, and yet on the application it says the event will be named RGC Open Calcutta sponsored by the city of Falmouth. So there's a bit of a disconnect right there for me.
That was clarification I got from Andrew on Friday.
Okay, so you would be seeking sponsorship from the city of Falmouth.
Yeah.
Yeah, we just wanna give you guys recognition
Okay.
for a
Yeah.
donation, we don't want it to go nowhere and you guys be unnoticed.
And you do receive 10,000 from the Johnson Files Foundation and 4,000 from the Winders Trust for the same event, correct?
No,
No.
that is for
Just-
youth memberships, clubs,
Not-
various,
Is any of that money used towards this Calcutta event?
no, it's all.
It would not be.
Where do the proceeds from the Calcutta event go?
Well, you know the breakdown, but we keep a percentage of the revenue the golf club does. I don't know that percentage exactly, but
Usually the course keeps, it's like 10 to 15, usually it's about, honestly makes up about 5% of our operations in income that Calcutta does for us. So it is a sizable event for 2 days.
Well, I've had discussions with at least a couple members and others about the tourism fund, and it seems to me that there is a divergence of views on what the tourism fund should be used for, and I would just, in a rough sense, I would say the first one you would describe as a sponsorship and event subsidizer, however you wanna phrase it, that'd be the one, and then the other one would be a different vision that would envision saving up a large sum of money and perhaps improving facilities that would draw tourists over time because of the quality of our facilities, and then we would be seeing more tourism. So I guess really the question would have to ask is, I think the precedent has been perhaps started with the Bluegrass Festival that the question is, do we want the tourism fund to be one or the other? One where we are giving money to every festival, every event, every outing, every group event that comes and asks for money in order to offset their costs, in the hope that we will get, let's just say, $5,001 in net revenue from shopping at our stores, hotel stays, and whatnot. There's no comment on your event at all. I would find it hard to believe that the formula would be a net contributor to our sales tax or other revenue than it would be to not spend it and then just end up saving the money to improve our facilities. That's just kind of what my thinking is, and I'm just one person on this board. So, in my personal opinion, I think the tourism fund should be used for building either facility construction that improves tourism fund or improving the quality of our facilities that we know bring tourism. That's just my opinion as a board member.
I agree with what you said, Councilman Fairbacher. I fit firmly in the facilities box, as most people already know. And I know by your own statement that, I mean, the Calcutta will go on, whether or not we do this or not. I think everyone in the city of Almy knows that I'm trying to stack money to build a marina on East Fork.
Miss Gwen, how much does the tourism fund bring a month? Roughly 7 to 9,000?
That's about 125 to 130 a year, so.
So about 10,000.
10,000 a month. That's substantial.
So I mean, I think in state statute, it clearly states that tourism funds are supposed to be used to put heads in beds, to bring people into town. And I think that that can be done in any number of ways, whether you build facilities that will bring in people from out of town. It's not primarily used from people that are within a certain amount of distance from the city of Olney. But I think also, historically and primarily, it's been used to help with events and organizations that provide for those opportunities to take place that bring people in.
You mentioned the Bluegrass Festival. What was the deal with that?
Well, I happened to be gone for the event, but I was very engaged on that. The Bluegrass Festival, about, 3 years ago, was proposed, and by using the tourism fund, it was supposed to help them advertise as seed money and then grow into a larger event over time. I wasn't here to voice my opinion on that, but the council did go through with that would be the last year, year number 4, would be the last year of seed money to be able to get that event off the ground. I would only differ, not because of the quality of your event, I'm sure it's a fine event, that you've been around for quite a while, and you're not trying to start a new yearly event. That's how I would differentiate those, but I wouldn't have voted for the 4th year of the Bluegrass Festival anyway, because I think after the 3rd year, that was pretty much, I'm just a difference of opinion, I'm just one vote, but that's how I would have voted had I been here for that meeting.
But you state that correctly, Councilman, that the essence, we were contributing tourism money towards getting an event up and rolling. And if it would be self-sustaining after 3 years or now for absolutely tops, then it was not to be extended out just as an annual basis, which if you ask might be an annual situation. So that's really how we have determined heretofore that tourism money was to help with events that were being established, not already established events that were already sustaining. So, and it's an event held in our county, but this is the city, so I know we don't have a golf course like Robinson, we don't have a golf course in town. So we do appreciate having a golf course in the county, but as far as contributing tax money that was collected in the city of Olney for an event in the county, and that's where I draw the line to myself. So I'm not in favor of this, so I would make the motion to deny this request.
Motion, is there a second?
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Call the roll, please.
Councilman Iyer,
Yes.
Mayor Lambert,
Nay.
Councilman Miller,
Yes.
Councilman Fehrenbacher.
Yes.
Motion passes. Thank you guys very
All right.
much. Good luck. Hope
Thanks
the
for your
weather's
time.
good. Next item on the agenda is a resolution to authorize execution of a credit purchase agreement between the City of Olney and the Common Energy LLC. Mr. Bradley and Good Energy.
Javier, you wanna go?
Yeah.
Thank you for having me. I'm from New York, but I played that course, pretty nice course, so. Community solar, I don't know if any of you have heard of it. I'm here basically, I don't know how much you've reviewed, but I'm here to give you a summary, but also to just answer questions and make this as efficient as possible. So, Good Energy develops and also offers and sells, selling is the wrong word, offers credits on your electricity bills for subscribing to a project. Now, interesting about community solar is that you don't have to install panels on your roof. I don't know if you have it at your home. You basically subscribe, and that, whatever the share of your usage is, you get a credit for subscribing. So it's a state incentive. It's a state program called Illinois Shine. And essentially, if you offer up small solar projects or renewable energy projects, the state gives money to developers and investors for building those projects. The catch is they have to offer those discounts on residents or commercial establishments bills. It's kind of a situation where, is this too good to be true? You sign up for it and you just get a credit on your bill. Yes, that's exactly what it is. In fact, the program has evolved where it's very effective now, very efficient, where it's done on the Ameren utility bill. You don't get two bills. You have a choice. There are some programs where you do get a separate bill, and there's an interesting calculation to get the credits. But in this particular case, we're offering up a utility consolidated billing credit. So Ameren sends you a bill, and then you get a credit on your delivery and supply portion. One of the things that we're also the company that set up your program for commercial electricity purchase. So you are saving money over the Ameren bill. So one of the things we have to do is we have to merge that supply bill with your Ameren bill. Right now, you're getting a supplier consolidated bill. We're gonna switch that over back to Ameren's consolidated bill so that you can get this community solar credit. These offers go very, very fast. That's why I'm here, that's why city manager asked me to come, because we want you to get in the queue, because these projects get subscribed very quickly, as you can imagine. It's free money, they credit on your bill, and then they're gone. So a lot of municipalities, we've signed over 20 municipalities on this, pretty quickly. Been thinking about it, only had a project for you guys like about a year ago. Unfortunately, we missed the queue, but we do have an opportunity to get one here in the next 30 days. A little bit more about specifically how we've been working your accounts. You have several accounts that have different rate classes. One of the rate classes is DS2, a DS3, and a DS5. Most of your accounts are DS2s. Those are the accounts that we're gonna be giving the credits to. Certain projects favor certain types of accounts. In this particular case, it's your DS2. That adds up to about 2.1 million kilowatt hours, and we're gonna sign the 2.1 million that adds up to that is your TS2 accounts. They are gonna come in stages. So currently we have about half that quantity available for credits, and then we should subscribe it in the next 6 months the other half. So we've got to have about 900,000 to 1 million kilowatt hours of credits. If you do an analysis across your cost of those 2.1 million kilowatt hours, it amounts to about $30,000 a year in savings in credits. That's if all the DS2 accounts are switched. So it's a pretty significant amount, and this is for 25 years. The agreement is very flexible. You have a 1-year out clause, so if you terminate, you have a year to stay on the program. It allows us to then resubscribe those credits to other commercial entities or other communities if you don't want to stay on there. Most people stay on, obviously, they want there. And it amounts to about 10% of your electricity bill, both on supply and delivery. So again, very simple. You sign a subscription agreement, and as fast as we can get you on the next billing cycle to switch over and consolidate to an Ameren utility consolidated billing, it'll take about 60 or 90 days to get those first 900,000 kWh on the credit program. So I'm going to stop there. I'm just going to open up to questions. Again, real simple. Just credit goes on your Ameren bill.
One question, so this is at zero cost to the city?
Zero cost. There are other programs that do charge, like mostly residential programs. They charge like a $50 sign-up fee. This is not.
So how does your company make money?
We get paid by the developer, so we get a portion of those incentives. So the incentives that you get, we also get incentives for the marketing of that.
Gotcha,
Yes.
okay. I wondered
But
what your
yours 10%
upside
is,
was.
yeah, your 10% is secure. So all the capital stack goes to all these different developers, providers, marketers. In this particular case, I did not develop this project. I have other projects. This one, we act as a mediator and a liaison to the credits. So, yeah.
So that 10% is good for the 25-year period?
Yes,
Term.
or, 25 years is 25 to 30, as long as the solar projects, supposedly solar projects are now gonna last about 30 years based on technology and equipment and innovation.
So in this sheet that you sent Frank today, it keeps talking about make sure you know what your fees are going to be and that they're less than.
Yeah,
your
so the fees are,
credits.
so the agreement that you have will demonstrate what those fees are. There are no fees
Okay.
for you guys. You get a 10% discount, and the disclosure form will delineate all that and outline all that stuff, so.
So where in here does it discuss the fees in the agreement?
It would be in the disclosure form. There's a disclosure form, that you have there. I don't know if everybody has that one.
Box outside of the packet.
Yeah.
Is this disclosure form just a sample though?
It's just a sample, though. Anything that's written there is not our agreement, it's not our disclosure. We have to actually get you the exact project and assign the projects to those accounts. It's a little bit of work for us. And then, but you will, obviously, once you sign the document, that disclosure form will come with the agreement, and so it'll all be there. And that's there for your protection. It's a state program. They want you to know where the electrons are coming from, where the project is, that it's in Ameren, and that you're getting the credits. So that is all for your protection, that disclosure form.
So our bill's going to look like, this is how much your bill would be, right? And it's gonna have deduct,
Yes. So it'll be whatever you
It'll be a
bill, if it's
deduction of
$100, you're gonna get, you know, a 10% discount, that's $10.
and then there will be a bottom number that says this is your bill.
Yeah.
So that's how,
Yeah.
over a period of time, over a period of a year, it's going to be around $30,000 to $33,000 a year.
Yes, for all the accounts, for all your
Right.
2.1 million
The-
kilowatt hours of cost, right?
The-
One thing you should keep in mind is that it does, because solar projects have more output in the summer, your credits are gonna be a lot higher in the summertime. And then in the shoulder months of the fall will be much less. So you're gonna have proportionally higher credits in the summer that might look strange, you might be over-credited to compensate that we don't have enough credits because solar production is less in the winter and the fall. So it's not a straight line, obviously, it's a bell curve of credits, just like electricity in the summer. It's a bell curve
So
of
the
usage.
10% is an average reduction in our bill.
At the end of every year, you should have 10% of savings.
Should have, so.
Should have, absolutely.
Okay. What if it's cloudy for 11 months out of the year and all of a sudden we have
There
poor
is,
production? So
there
also-
is force majeure language based on output, obviously, those things we have
I'm
no
just saying,
control.
at first I heard 10% and I was thinking, well, no, it depends on the output, solar output. And
Yeah.
Some months are gonna be 14%, some months are gonna be 6, but average will be 10%. I'd be more comfortable with, you get 10% off your bill. Not, well, it's gonna average, should average about 10%.
Well, that's what's submitted to the state, so you need to get it, and the supplier and the vendor are the ones that are responsible to know what your costs are and understand that they have to compensate that 10% if it wasn't given. So there has to be a mechanism, and there is, for them to give you that 10%.
And if production should exceed 10%, then that's held back and then somebody else gets that extra revenue?
Sorry.
We will be held at 10%. I mean, you said we're guaranteed 10%. They're,
Yeah, so the way it works is that your 2.1 million is a share of that project. And that project, solar project, based on 30 years of NREL, data, will produce that amount of solar output.
projected, yes.
Projected. And so it should match up. Is it gonna match up exactly in certain years where there might be an anomaly? For example, this year, all over the Northeast and also Midwest, you had,
Smoke.
well, the smoke, no, but
Reduces
I'm
it.
talking, no, well, we had January and February were extremely cold, sub-zero. And,
Yeah.
for example, in New York, snow didn't melt. We had 2 feet of snow and it stayed for 3 weeks. So that soiling of the panels was there, and it's hard to make, so production was extremely low in winter. But come now, June,
Pouring
very,
on.
very, very hot month,
Yeah,
July,
pouring on.
so we have overproduction. So on average, it balances out, the production
But
balances
we're-
out over time.
Okay, but are we guaranteed 10%? Are you saying on average it should balance out to be approximately 10%?
You should be getting 10%.
Again, you should be, that's not a definite article.
Yeah.
Should be.
And this program costs us how much?
Zero.
So
Zero.
if it costs us $0, if we save $1, we're still better off than saving no dollars.
We are.
So
True.
then we're just arguing about something.
I'm just
that-
saying, if it's
I'm
9.9,
just following
I'm
back
just
to
saying,
the
no, I
adage, if it
understand.
sounds too good to be true,
Could
it
it-
probably isn't true. I'm just trying to.
You could be getting more. You could be 10.1,
Yeah.
or you could be 9.9. There is a little bit of a variance.
Well,
Are
that
you
was the
going to
question
be at
too.
8?
Will we
No.
be capped at 10? I mean, if it's 10.1,
No,
now we.
no,
now
we've
that
given
10%
people
right.
more than 10% on,
Okay.
because it just works out on production, and credits and monetary credits. So what the price of you know, those credits are the price of power. If the price of power increases, then obviously credits also increase. So it really is, unfortunately, I can't say it's guaranteed, but it is guaranteed that we are needing to give you the 10%, and it's based on a formula, which changes because it's a dynamic market, so.
With an established provider now or other municipality, do we have any record of what they've actually received?
We can certainly, yeah, we have several examples that we can share and stuff like that, yeah. But again, this is, you wanna get signed up as soon as possible. And we can work out those numbers, whether they're 10% or not. We could always do an audit. We can do a financial audit of what those credits are and figure out where we are. So there could be a performance review every year. That's not a problem. We could do that. But based on the agreement, you're supposed to get 10%.
So what happens whenever, like, 25 years, I mean, probably in 25 years, they'll hopefully have a new city hall building somewhere. Will that move to that city hall building, or is it just gonna stay at this location?
Yeah, if
It's for all-
if there's material change, we would know that, and then obviously, what would happen is if you grew, let's say those accounts grew, or an account grew, only the portion of that kilowatt hour would be given to you, so, there would have to probably be a reassessment because of the material change of the agreement. And then there could be, if it increases, then we would have to go find some more capacity in the market for you. And we obviously will do that in good faith, of course.
But you would carry the same amount over.
We
at
could
least
carry
that
the same
big.
amount over to you guys, yes.
Questions, comments, motion to approve.
What happens when they overproduce, like the ones out there on,
Okay,
250, and they catch fire?
okay.
I have,
Is this, are you making the comment about the building, is this for all city accounts or just city hall?
Our
DS2
DS2 accounts,
DS2 is,
Well, the
what does that
Ameren ones
entail?
too.
Which-
that's most everything we have, the street lights will not be
Except
on
for the
it.
pump house.
Not
Cause the
Norris.
water,
Norris,
the pump
correct.
house pull a lot of,
Street
pull a lot
lights,
of power.
Norris.
Yeah.
There's another. what would
DS5
be-
and DS3.
Yeah, other than the street lights, or is that just, is it just, I think it is just the street
Just
lights.
this,
But the
yeah, I
majority
think
of our
this-
accounts are DS2.
they have DS5
would
and
compl-
DS3.
would
I mean,
qualify.
we can, eventually, there are projects that we can move those DS3s into DS5s, but right now I don't have any.
Gotcha. So we would receive a
That's
bill
separate.
from Ameren every month, that's how we're gonna set this up. We would pay via check, just like we normally do, right?
And we would work with Ameren for the summary accounts, again, summary bill and all that.
Well, I would assume this is, a similar program came through 3, 4, 5 years ago for residential accounts. 300 persons, 20% reduction of bill. I mean, we signed up for it, and I definitely, I mean, it just is lower, my bill is lower. I never see a bill from, it's Arcadia, whoever that is out there in the ether.
Yeah, it's one of the, some
but-
others.
My bill just did go down, I mean, so I'm not sure why the city didn't want to, maybe it was only for residents at the
It
time.
was at the time.
But if we could apply the same benefit to the city, I mean, my personal experience, it's definitely lowered my electric bill, so.
Questions, comments, motion?
I'd make a motion to approve.
Second?
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any further discussion? Further discussion? Seeing none, we'll proceed to vote. All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion passes. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Council.
Next item on the agenda is a
10%.
resolution to amend the 26-27 Route 130 TIF district budget. Mr. Bradley?
We have demolished and cleaned up the property at 918 and 920 West Main Street. The contractors completed this work at a cost of $2,500. A resolution is included in your packet that will add a new line item in the Route 130 TIF budget to pay for this work.
Questions, comments? Motion to approve.
Looks good, motion to approve.
Second.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any further discussion?
I will say this was an excellent, example of what we should do with the TIF district, and I know that whenever we were first talking about it, that it said we didn't wanna set a precedent, but I tell you what, I hope we do set a precedent with this, because this is very successful, and I realize it's just a trailer, you just move the trailer out, but, you know,
Looks definitely improved.
I want to see more of this myself, so, just my.
Thank you very much. Further discussion? Seeing none, we'll proceed to vote. All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion passes. Next item on the agenda is an ordinance to regulate development in floodplain areas. Mr. Bradley?
We are in receipt of a letter regarding map changes and revised floodplain panels from FEMA. There are no significant changes in the flood hazard area, but we are required to adopt a new floodplain ordinance by September 7th in order to remain in the National Flood Insurance Program. A proposed ordinance referencing the revised floodplain panels has been drafted and approved by IDNR. This is now ready for your review and included in your packet. Once adopted, we will send the ordinance to FEMA.
And the primary change in it was there was a reduction in floodplain area.
Correct.
Okay, very good. Questions, comments, motion to approve.
Motion to approve.
Second?
Second?
Second, motion made and second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, we'll proceed to vote. All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion passes. Next item on the agenda is a resolution to accept quote for sanitary sewer relining and waive formal bidding procedures. Mr. Bradley?
This project includes relining of the sanitary sewer on East Main Street from Washington Street to Jefferson Street. This project is necessary because during televising of the line, it was found to have several areas of infiltration, and a sinkhole had started to form closer to the Washington and Main Street intersection. The sanitary sewer line is an 8-inch pipe, 9 foot deep, and approximately 342 feet long. 2 quotes have been received for this project. Those are included in your packet, along with the proposed resolution to accept the low bid and a memo from Sewer Department Supervisor Jeff Lathrop. I recommend waiving formal bid procedures and accepting the quote from Scuda Construction, Inc. for $29,860.
Questions, comments, or motion to approve?
I'd make a motion to approve. That's an excellent price for 342 feet of pipe.
Second.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any further discussion? Seeing none, we'll proceed to vote. All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion passes. Next item on the agenda is report from elected and appointed officials. Status report. Mr. Bradley?
The bridge projects on East and Elliott Street are complete.
Okay.
Hallelujah.
How much have you aged?
It's been a long, long while. Yeah.
So that's good
Okay.
news.
And what'd the flagger end up running us then?
We come in at budget. We didn't have to add any more after that last one. But
Okay.
we don't have anything coming back to us, right? We don't have, we just made it.
Okay,
so.
well, okay. Signed, sealed, delivered. All right.
Main Street curb and gutter overlay project is going well, so they're approaching downtown area, moving westward, so that's going very well. And the only thing else I have is there's an opening in our police and street department currently.
Questions, comments for the city manager? RCDC report. Chamber of Commerce report. Of course, Julia is not here tonight. She did want me to tell you folks that there is a Fifth Friday market this Friday. We have more than 30 young kids that are going to be out there, youth of the community, doing the mini makers. They're going to be selling their wares along with 10 older vendors and some music by O'Rye. And on August the 7th at the VFW, there will be a meat raffle, and there will also be music there. No need for executive session. I would accept a motion to adjourn if there's no other business to
I
be had.
would like to discuss 2 things quickly from tonight's meeting, and one is about boat docks. And I know, having sat through all the discourse from past council members and public at large and county residents and voters, it was a challenging several months. There was a lot of discussion, a lot of back and forth. So, I know I had spoken to you earlier, Bryce, we reestablished this new ordinance. It was generous. The rules. And then tonight I said, okay, maybe we'll have a variance. And I say that because I would consider a small variance, not a 25-foot, but I would consider a 5-foot variance to avoid opening up that whole can of worms on rewriting that whole ordinance. It was months, Matt. It was
I think
months.
that's what he's looking into doing is get it to, I'm only gonna ask you for 5 feet after.
Well,
I
I mean,
dredge.
I would be amenable to that rather than to say, I'd listen to a variance for 5 feet rather than to open up that whole discussion and re-challenge of rewriting the ordinance, which we just went through. Mayor and I both sat through that. You're not making much comment, Mark, but there was just a lot of back and forth. It was way more of a challenge than I had ever anticipated.
Some things have a habit of doing that you don't expect.
Because there was a lot of input for people who had no idea what they were talking about. You know, they'd never been on the water. They didn't know about boating. They didn't know about skiing or, you know, making wakes. But yet they're establishing rules. It was just a challenge. So I do have to think the rules is the rules. And if it's for a variance, and I'll come back to the variances that you normally see for wheelchair ramps or such like things, if it's a hardship, and the wording in the application does say demonstrable hardship, you know, and if it's a hardship, okay, then let's listen to it. But this is just this is a nicety. I'd like this, a nice big dock. So, and I already built it, so say yes. It's like, no. So I just want to explain myself to both of you. You know, the rules, but you know, a variance which would keep us from revisiting that whole bit about the ordinance, which is not that old, and it was fairly generous. And yes, we could always be saying boats are bigger, but the type of equipment that they use now is different too. Well, choose a different type of equipment. It's still out there. Sling lifts are still available. Just because you have these are at least expensive, and they do work well, but you have to have the adequate depth. And we don't. We have shallow slopes on our East Fork for the most part. So you use a different type of apparatus. Okay, that's about the boat docks. And then tourism money. It would behoove us, I think, for all of us on the council, if we had some established guidelines for using the tourism money. And you had stated it, Bryce, that do we want to use this money towards infrastructure that's will bring in tourists, which is kind of a stretch for the original idea of the tourism money, which really was kind of for originally, back years and years ago, it was like, hey, let's charge patrons to motels a little extra that then we can spend, that will get back to the city, and then they can spend it on advertising, you know, and it was really to be at least 50 miles away to say, hey, come to Olney for our fall festival, or come for our Cummins Band concert. That was kind of the early concept, and then it got to the point where it's this heads and beds concept, which I do agree. If we can bring tourists in and they stay at hotels, that's tax money received. They're going to dine at a restaurant. They're probably going to shop at Walmart. They're probably going to purchase gasoline. So we will gain revenue from that. But it would behoove us if we would either an understood application of the tourism money. What do we want to see? Do we want to just nickel and dime it to these events, or do we want to let's start a kitty and start putting this towards something hard and fast, such as boat slips or, you know, a campground, something that would, you know, be more hard and fast instead of, but, you know, so that's just 2 cents. That could be for a different session. If we want to discuss that, I think it would help us all. And the guidelines for the people applying for things too. It's like, well, here's what we're shooting for. You know, here's what we want to do as council. And that's going to be subject to change to every new council that comes on.
Yeah,
For right
every
now,
4 years, you're gonna have a new.
for another
vision,
year or 2 or 4 or 6,
Possibly.
it could be. At least it would help us to
I think
decide.
I think you don't want one or the other necessarily, but I think a methodology would be, are we trying to get something new off the ground?
Again, there's always going to be exceptions. Something comes in, look like, hey, I really want to I want to start a circus in Olney. I need seed money.
I think both can be
Okay.
right.
But a golfing outing that's been ongoing, and generally golfers are fairly well heeled. That's my opinion. I don't know that they really need the money, and even stated they didn't need the donation. It would have been nice to have, but again, if we really want to establish more infrastructure to bring in tourists, then that should be something that we should let's draw a hard line on that and just keep
I'm not
pursuing that end.
I'm not against experimentation and
Yeah.
trying something and helping somebody that has a great idea. I think I mentioned the Bluegrass Festival. I don't have a thing in the world against the Bluegrass Festival. There's legitimate debate about when is the cutoff time? When are we mature on this? That's debatable, but and that's water under the bridge.
And if it brings heads and beds, I mean, that's a very legitimate argument, but it's kind of, do we want to you know, the income from bringing in
I
this?
don't,
Or do you want
that's not really an
infrastructure?
argument, that's state statute. I mean, that
It's
has
in
to be
the-
the purpose.
And
I
It's
mean,
just the
that's not
methodology.
really an argument. I mean, I guess you could have an opinion as to what does that.
Okay, so that would be more conducive then to sponsoring events, because frankly, boat slips are gonna be utilized mostly by city, county residents, probably not tourists.
We don't know that.
Not based on what I'm hearing. I've already got a list of people who
Mhm.
aren't driven by price that do not live in Richland County and would love to have a place to store their boat, because our East Fork Lake is becoming known as a lake that has excellent fishing and people have a whole lot of fun on it.
And those people would come and then stay at a hotel
They do now.
for the weekend? I mean, it gets kinda gray on where this money is,
There is
how
no
it can be
black
used.
and no white.
Well, we know we can't use it,
Everything's open to
we can't use it for
interpretation.
repaving, and we can't put a new sewer
Right.
line into this money, we
Right.
can't use that money, but
That
if
is
it
correct.
brings people that don't live here from here,
Yeah, I'm a firm
then-
believer in, you know, showcasing what we have, improving what we have, make what we have a bigger draw, add to it as we can.
Well, that's why I was in favor of the pickleball establishment. The more excellent of a facility you have, the more of a crowd it draws because of the notoriety of the facility.
yes,
Or-
but if we use that as an example, who's gonna use that, tourists or residents?
It's it'd be dual, a lot of things are dual purpose.
It
in
could
life.
be, but frankly, more people are gonna use that restroom close to pickleball courts who already live here, I mean.
Well, it wasn't just a restroom, it was also the
Well,
other
shade, but,
shade and whatnot.
all right, then the improvements are gonna be utilized more by the people who already live there, rather than the people who are coming in for the once or twice a year tournament.
Well, I mean, that's very possible, but I mean, that's, dual purpose is still drawing people. I mean, you'd have to have people from here in order to draw from outside. You wouldn't say only outsiders may use that facility because we spend tourism.
Yeah.
I recognize that, but I think it's still a net benefit to both our citizens and tourism output. That's just my view on that. But I think you're right. There's not a never case when it comes to seeding events and trying out a new festival, whatnot. I think it's totally legitimate, and I would support it if one came forward.
So we really established nothing. You know, we're still kinda back where we
Well,
were,
I mean,
we'll depend on.
so technically it wasn't on the agenda to discuss, so, but I mean, I think that what you're saying is you would like to have a formal discussion on the agenda about what this looks like.
Could we come up with guidelines on how to utilize the tourism money? Would it be something that we could accomplish, to come up with guidelines?
I think I would assume.
It would assist us, because this will come again, you know, we will be
Of
approached
course,
again.
it seems to be
Well, I think just
every meeting.
the discussion that you've had is, it's gonna become a matter of opinion. I mean, if you were to not run and there'd be someone in your place, they may have a different opinion, but
Right.
they're
You
not
could
held
change.
to it by that. But just this discussion alone is a framework
Yeah.
that it's going to depend on the cases that come before you. I mean, your long-term project, I suppose, would guide you. You would say, I want boat docks. Well, that's kind of a guiding,
And do you establish that, we wanna put 100% of tourism money towards that, and we're not gonna veer, or gonna say, we wanna put 80% towards that, and that gives us 20% of tourism money to, help support events? I mean,
well, you wouldn't
could
necessarily have to
establish that as
define
well.
it. You would just say, we've got net revenue each year, and, we can spend some of it for events, and the rest of it's gonna go into savings to where the day that we have a discussion about what facility we wanna put it towards. You wouldn't have to
Okay.
make a rule, in my opinion.
All right,
Questions, comments?
I got one more thing to say. If you're gonna put them solar panels on the roof,
We're not putting them on the roof, we're just buying into a community project.
okay. I was
Yes.
gonna say, if you put them on the roof, make sure you redo the roof before
Okay,
you put solar panels on them.
Any further discussion? Seeing that, I would accept a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.